Welcome to Ask the TA, a periodic segment on Holliston Hub HCAT where viewers can send questions for the town manager and other town representatives to answer for the benefit of all Holliston stakeholders. Today will be a slightly different format as I've accepted a role at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and I'm currently focused on ensuring a smooth and efficient transition of critical town projects and initiatives. For the sake of posterity, this Ask the TA will be split into two installments. The first installment, which accompanies this installment, focused on a look back at the accomplishments of the past 5 years. In other words, what is fully complete with boxes checked. This second installment will focus on the ongoing projects and initiatives, many of which span numerous years before they come to fruition, as well as critical planning and future projects and initiatives. If you find this Ask the TA segment informative, please consider also watching the first installment. And if these critical Holliston projects interest you as a stakeholder, please consider getting involved directly in local government as we rely heavily on dedicated stakeholders for many important boards and committees and other volunteer opportunities. Getting into the road ahead for the next town manager, I'm going to go through a few slides here, including specific projects and where they sit with timelines. So just to review, part one is an accompanying installment that looks back 5 years. This is looking at ongoing projects that are in progress and some things that we will be seeing in the years ahead. So just a quick outline, especially for capital projects and initiatives, as most people will at least recognize some of these concepts. Each one will have its own slide to go through some of the particulars. So first, the capital projects and initiatives, and then organizational initiatives, the implementation of the Town Manager Act, which has now been signed by the governor, and the 5-year strategic plan implementation, which is a critical path forward for the town. So again, on the capital projects themselves, Woodland Street Bridge and Dam impacts a lot of different stakeholders in town. The DPW facility project has a previous approval, but also some questions on the site that we'll get into. The Holliston High School is probably, depending on the stakeholder you talk to, one of the top or the top priority for the future of Holliston, given where that building is and where we are with the state process. The downtown sewer project has progressed nicely and yet has a path forward that may go a few different directions and is ultimately requiring funding. Norfolk Street water mains and sidewalks is part of a larger plan, but one that has a lot of different implications. The water mains are followed by sidewalk extension that impacts the parks, connecting parks to the sidewalk network. For traffic mitigation, we have so many things going on as it relates to ongoing grants, Safe Routes to School, Shared Streets and Spaces, and the Boston Region MPO. And then Goodwill Park renovations, which have been approved numerous times now by town meeting. So for the Woodland Street Bridge and Dam, I think this impacts a number of people, including the schools on Woodland Street, and so as well as businesses that exist on Woodland Street, residents in the area, a general way to get around town. 2024 was the year of permitting for this project. It was a long and arduous process. The MEPA and DEP permitting process did take quite a while. The Army Corps of Engineers is part of that process, Mass DOT because of the bridge component, and our own local Concom because of the water impacts, the wetlands in the area, downstream impacts of replacing a dam, the Factory Pond Dam. 2025, however, will be the completion date. There is a contractual completion for that project of September 1st, 2025. I have a visual of the schedule here, although it is much easier to review it online. It is too small on the screen, I'm sure, but just so people know, that schedule is available, and what we're looking at now with a number of different grants that we were able to secure to offset the impact to the ratepayer, the taxpayer. The seawall dam repair grant for $1 million, the small bridge grant for $500,000, the fair share amendment related to Chapter 90 is $275,000, and then our Chapter 90 funding. So a critical project, one that needs to wrap up in 2025 for our businesses along Woodland Street, for all of our residents that rely on access, and for our schools, our elementary and middle schools on Woodland Street, plus our public safety response time. It impacts so many elements of life in Holliston that this project, I know a number of people are happy to see it happen. My exit obviously will have no impact here, where we have it lined up, ready to go. the DPW director, deputy DPW director, deputy procurement officer, everybody is on top of this project. It is a priority to get this done in 2025. So happy to leave that in good position. The DPW facility, on the other hand, has some questions related to the site itself. The town had long, drawn-out conversations about where the perfect site was for future DPW operations. We have two past useful life facilities as it relates to water on Central Street and highway grounds on Arch Street. And both of those sites, both of those facilities certainly need to be addressed. We are approaching a period where we're getting to a process where that may leave our control if we don't operate soon. And so the town had looked at a number of different options. Axton Cross was a former business operating out of 20 Cross Street, has been a land court for a number of years. And it is centrally located. It was a perfect location for DPW and still would be. However, what we found in the 2 years since the May of 2023, just less than 2 years since the May of 2023 town meeting approved that, the ballot question approved the borrowing for it, is that it is still in land court. While we have some potentially positive updates from land court, we've also had in the last 1.5 to 2 years the opportunity to evaluate the environmentals of that site, which is why it's in land court, with our consultant, Weston & Sampson. We're working with EPA, who is very interested in the cleanup of that site. And ultimately, where we sit right now is the select board is going to have to make a decision based on timeline, right? We need to address our DPW facilities needs, and yet this site, regardless of how perfect the location may be, may not work for our timeline. So the select board in May of 2025, potentially October of 2025, will need to discuss whether or not that site is the right site. You can look online and see all of the sites that were discussed and potentially developable. As we went into that initial discussion and community approval, it was always presented to town meeting that if 20 Cross Street was not viable and could not move forward, that it would come back to town meeting to discuss another site. So that is how it's set up. So I would anticipate having that discussion in the next few months, especially with the new town manager, as that is critical that we find a solution, and yet the 20 Cross Street site may no longer fit our timeline. Again, mentioned at the top, the Holliston High School and the MSBA process. So the MSBA is the Mass School Building Authority. They have a statement of interest process, which the town chose to enter 7 years ago at this point, to upgrade, potentially rehabilitate, or completely reconstruct the Holliston High School. The reason that the town is relatively reliant on that process is that it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to build a high school in 2025. And the state process of splitting the cost with communities, sometimes 50-50, sometimes 60-40, drastically changes the outcome for a Holliston taxpayer. And so, again, we have had numerous discussions over the past 7 years with the MSBA, the state. We will continue to work with our state legislators, Senate President, Rep. Irina DeRosa, on making sure that we are putting forward our best foot for the future of the Holliston High School. But it is an extremely competitive program, and while we had a tour and a walkthrough with the superintendent last year with the MSBA to show the condition of the high school, where we can see significant improvement should we be selected in the MSBA, we ultimately were not selected. So by April of 2025, the school committee and the select board will need to determine if they are prepared to move forward again for another year in that process. It is not uncommon to take numerous years to get through the MSBA process. So in some regards, it is about a commitment to show the interest. And at the same point, the school committee, the select board, the finance committee, town meeting have all discussed in the past, should there be another path forward? Should we be looking at other options besides the MSBA? And that will have to continue, but at the same point, really financially, the MSBA is a game changer for a potential project, and one that runs a robust program as it relates to evaluating all the needs of a high school. So ideally, the town is selected and moves forward for cost reasons. Again, they run a great process, but it is difficult to be selected. So, again, depending on the resident that I speak with along my time in Holliston, this is, for many people, the #1 priority for the future of Holliston. As it relates to the downtown sewer project, we've seen phenomenal progress for what might be, again, a game changer as it relates to our downtown area, our Village Commercial District, which spans from downtown down Central Street to the Blair Square area. The town invested heavily in the existing wastewater treatment plant, which currently only services the schools on Woodland Street. And looking at the investment that we've made, putting in the SCADA system, which is the brains of the operation, replacing pumps, modernizing the plant itself, because we will need it. We've had it for 20 years, we'll need it for the next 20 years. Additionally, we used our own ARPA funding to bring in Lombardo Associates to run a feasibility of whether or not the existing capacity of that plant can take flow from private businesses in the downtown area that would allow us to create a sewer district. As we look at that downtown area, there are opportunities should we not be restricted by very densely populated septic systems. It would allow different types of businesses the option of looking at Holliston and the downtown area, and so it is worth moving forward with. The work that was done by Lombardo Associates has been approved by Mass DEP for the scope of work specifically, although there are still additional regulatory hurdles that we have with Mass DEP. And then additionally, as you see at the picture on the bottom here, that is Congressman McGovern standing with former chair of the Select Board, John Cronin, current chair of the Sewer Commission, John Cronin, and current vice chair of the Select Board, Ben Sparrow, with myself. Congressman McGovern encouraged the town to put forward this project for congressionally directed spending. That funding was moving forward, though with the current discussions going on at the federal level, it is most likely that if we're able to get that funding, it is currently on a different timeline than what we were previously hoping, which was January of 2025. But again, we have now, where the Sewer Commission is going, now that the Sewer Commission was established in October of 2024 at town meeting, the Sewer Commission can take that congressionally directed spending application and look at other grant opportunities outside of the federal government while we see what transpires. The current state opportunity for projects like this that we've seen in similar communities is called the One Stop for Growth program, which ties you to any particular grant opportunities that may align with your project, MassWorks being the one that would align with our project. So the Sewer Commission has its work cut out for it, but also a lot of good work to go off of. For water mains and sidewalks, these are ongoing, and they will be ongoing. Investing in our horizontal infrastructure is not necessarily something that we consider to be done in the next 5 years. It will be ongoing. However, significant strides have been made, and significant strides must continue to be made. So, for example, the Norfolk Street water mains break ground spring of 2025, April 2025 to be precise. With the completion of those water mains for a very good stretch of water main within calendar year 2025. Following that, one of the things that was previously approved at the May 2023 town meeting was also an extension of the existing sidewalks on Norfolk Street down to connect our existing sidewalk network, which can bring you from the schools or from downtown or for anywhere that connects, to now the parks on Norfolk Street. It would be a major step forward for connectivity for a variety of different users to be able to access the parks, access downtown from Norfolk Street. So that is a project that is planned for calendar year 2026 after the water mains are complete in 25. That whole program that went through and was approved in May of 2023, including a ballot question for borrowing, then leads to Central Street water mains and extension of sidewalk, and then Goulding Street thereafter. So you may see a survey of Central Street, for example. We're trying to keep those projects moving, and yet these are very cumbersome projects that do take a lot of time, as most of our capital projects do. For traffic mitigation, we have 3 ongoing, but there are a variety of other ways in which the Deputy DPW Director, Robert Walker, at the direction of the DPW Director, Sean Reese, have continued to make progress on the Select Board's goals. Safe Routes to Schools, the town was awarded with a projection for FY 2027 for Linden Street. Shared Streets and Spaces, the town is in the application process for improvements in the Town Hall area of Washington Street, down Church Street. And then the Boston Region MPO, this was another previous town meeting discussion on the intersection of Whitney Street and Washington Street down by the Sherburne line, bringing generally industrial traffic out of the industrial park area of Lowland. And so one of the things that we've had discussions on is we need to improve the entire circulation in that area. It's going to benefit residential traffic. It's going to benefit commercial traffic. It's going to alleviate a lot of the conflicts of traffic in that area should commercial vehicles be able to easily exit the park via Whitney Street. However, there is no light there. There is no ability to turn left. There is all sorts of complications with a rail trail connection, other areas that come out on the opposite end for Covanta, for additional large commercial vehicles. So being in the Boston Region MPO program for design of that solution is a major step forward for the town, will impact a variety of different road users, and also sets up the town for potential cost sharing of a project, of an improvement, capital improvement project in that area with the Boston Region MPO. We are in the pilot of their design engineering phase, and so it is very exciting for the town to be one of 5 communities that was selected in that pilot program, and to have a solution there which will impact our businesses positively, will impact the residents in that area positively, and continue to have a strong, safe flow of traffic, pedestrian as well, through the rail trail in that area. So all of these grants we engage with, not just because they provide us excellent professional and technical services, but also they provide us funding, which means that we have to rely less on local tax dollars. Goodwill Park renovations is one that you'll have seen the town meeting actually approve twice. First, a large investment through the CPC funding, the Community Preservation Committee funding. The Goodwill Park renovations is one of our flagship parks, is in our downtown area. We now have additional parking, as we talked about, at Green Street. And so this is the design that was approved at the October 24 town meeting to allocate additional dollars from the original appropriation based on where the bids came in, and we're hoping that that project will be completed within calendar year 2025. Moving off of capital to 2 of the larger initiatives outside of capital projects, the organizational initiatives that we've seen really looking at our governance structure, trying to find efficiencies that improve how government works for the resident. And the Town Manager Act is a great example of that. It puts the position for the select board to be the policy-making board and for the town manager to run the day-to-day. It sets up the town for what is a critical transition right now, with my exit from town, with a new town manager coming in ideally in early 2025, probably in May, June at the latest. And so the recruitment process, all of the discussions around where we're going as a town are improved through the Town Manager Act. And at the same point, there is going to need to be changes of processes that have formerly gone through the Town Administrator Select Board form of government, for now the Town Manager Select Board form of government. And so this is Chapter 405 of the Acts of 2024, which was enacted and signed by the Governor on January 10th, 2025. And it is one of the major components of what I'm doing as a transition to the next town manager, is, or more succinctly, the first town manager for the town of Holliston, is to put that in position for somebody to come in and start operating under that form of government, more efficient from the day-to-day operations within Town Hall and other buildings, other municipal buildings, and putting the select board in position to drive forward the policy for the town, policy initiatives, and then act on those policy initiatives. And then additionally, within all of that is the 5-year strategic plan, which is completed. We are currently in year 1 of that, FY25 through 29. The 5-year strategic plan, I'm going to highlight a couple things here, but really I would encourage you to review that document. It hits 7 strategic plan areas: DEI, education enrichment, environmental sustainability and natural resources, financial stability, flourishing economy, robust infrastructure, and thriving and engaged community. The items that I have here as priorities within 2025, some of which we've talked about: the Holliston High School SOI, the sewer project development, the master plan update to our current 1999 master plan, which is beyond, generally you want to be updating those every 10 years. That is within one of the main priorities within the strategic plan, is to get that master plan updated. One of the components of us looking holistically at the community and how residents are impacted is to review all of our policies. We have numerous policy-making boards, the school committee, the select board, a variety of different boards and committees, and so to review all of those policies through an equity lens is the role of the Policy Advisory Committee, which was recently established as a recommendation through that strategic plan. And a final opportunity here that I'll mention, but again, sort of fits in the larger picture of what we've talked about in the looking back 5 years and the looking ahead, is a regional sustainability coordinator with Sherburne and Holliston. We have had a sustainability coordinator in town, which we've outsourced. We've used professional and technical services. We're now looking at more cost-sharing models for some of these services to mitigate the impact to taxpayers, and yet many of the strategic priorities that we have in this town have to do with decarbonization efforts, sustainability efforts, and the many financial benefits that come with reducing our reliance on natural gas, oil, et cetera, which all will be running through one point person who will be, the subject matter expert for our partners in Sherburne. We will have a climate action plan to hand them. We will have we have our municipal aggregation plan for them to maintain, and the variety of questions that we get that come through my office is related to new exciting opportunities in sustainability that residents are looking for. So we think that is going to be a great outcome here, and all of these are just examples, really. Again, the 5-year strategic plan has so many things that came from that community input that happened in 2022 and 2023 that led to that final 5-year strategic plan. So following along with that process, I highly recommend. Again, this has been the look ahead. These are all projects that take many years to accomplish, and I would just like to specifically say, how thankful and grateful I am to have worked with so many wonderful people, a phenomenal staff in Holliston, a phenomenal group of volunteers and stakeholders on various boards and committees, nonprofit organizations, et cetera. This is installment 2. It goes with installment 1. Please consider that as well, to consider all of the great work that has happened, and put that in that perspective. And I'd just like to say again, thank you for watching Ask the TA on Holliston Hub HCAT. I hope you found this discussion of ongoing and future town projects and initiatives informative. And if you are interested in reviewing the accomplishments of the past 5 years, please consider watching the first installment of Ask the TA, looking at the projects and initiatives that have been completed. Thank you so much for watching.